Everyone. This is Logan Giles with your Tropical Storm Sally advisory number 3 from the Giles scale. As to the latest advisory, as of 5 o'clock Eastern Time, Sally is a 60-mile-an-hour tropical storm, which is 215 miles due southeast of the mouth of the Mississippi River, where landfall is expected to be close by. As you see, Sally is a fairly organized tropical storm, although it has most of its convection south of the center due to strong shear coming from the northwest today. However, it is expected to intensify as it makes landfall, which has been a common theme throughout this year. It is expected to make landfall early Tuesday morning, which has been earlier than the last couple forecasts. Landfall was going to be Tuesday afternoon or even morning. By now, it's supposed to be in the early hours on Tuesday, which will present an even more dangerous hazard, which is a very dangerous storm, life-threatening storm during the night hours. So, if you do decide to venture out, it is going to be extremely dangerous due to excessive flooding expected from Tropical Storm Sally, which will become Hurricane Sally by landfall Tuesday morning. Now let's go to some graphics from the National Hurricane Center, which were released a few minutes ago. So impacts from Sally have already begun in parts of New Orleans. They have experienced relatively minor storm surge, which even brings to the point storm surge begins well ahead of the center. Sally's no exception. They've had relatively minimal storm surge, although it is still way ahead of it. However, tropical storm force winds are expected to start for parts of southeast Louisiana at the earliest Monday morning, and will arrive by Monday midday. This might even stretch inland into Mississippi and Alabama. You can expect those winds to most likely arrive sometime Monday night. For the impacts down the road in the Carolinas are way too soon to tell, although not expecting a whole lot of impact in terms of wind. And in terms of the key messages, which there's a lot of, the National Hurricane Center, in addition to the local offices in New Orleans, Tallahassee, and Mobile, are stressing that there's going to be storm surge and rainfall, which is life threatening. As you can see, those hurricane conditions are expected late Monday within the hurricane warned area between Morgan City and Ocean Springs, which includes downtown New Orleans, Monday evening. So hurricane conditions, those winds over 74 miles an hour, along with the heavy rain and storm surge, will begin late Monday. So in 24 hours, you will get those winds. And flash flooding is also a major threat. Even parts of central and northern Florida, and significant flooding is expected across southeast Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. You will see the impact from the Giles scale on what these impacts actually mean and where they go on the scale. Peak surge. The forecast remains relatively unchanged with the exception of Lake Borgne to Port Fourchon in Louisiana being added. 7 to 11 feet of storm surge is expected for the extremely vulnerable concave coastline of Louisiana and Mississippi. This can and will kill you if you are not at a proper height. If you are inside your house, survival is going to be tough. Please listen to those local evacuation orders. Everywhere else, in Mobile Bay, dangerous storm surge of 2 to 4 feet is expected. Anything over 3 feet can float cars and even move them. And Lake Pontchartrain, which includes downtown New Orleans, you can expect a dangerous and possibly life-threatening storm surge of 4 to 6 feet. Fortunately, levees there can hold up to 15 feet. So while they will most likely be tested, they should hold up, although we will see what happens. Now, let's go to rainfall, which is arguably the biggest threat from Tropical Storm Sally. The Weather Prediction Center is forecasting an excessive amount of rain which could exceed 15 to 20 inches along the Louisiana and extreme southwest Mississippi coastline. Even 6 inches, half of the rain, is extreme into inland eastern Mississippi and western Alabama. Also, along the Florida Panhandle, mainly along the coast, a half foot of rain is expected, which will lead to extreme rainfall and cause rivers to flood their banks. Now let's go to the Giles scale and what those impacts will mean. I have added some upgrades, which you'll see momentarily. I've added a Category 3 rainfall risk, which is major hurricane status for eastern Louisiana. This is because at least 17 inches of rainfall is expected for that area. I've also trimmed down the Category 2 rainfall risk somewhat, although that has been extended into parts of southeast Louisiana, where totals of at least 11 inches of rain can be expected. Also, I have increased the rainfall risk of a Category 1, which is up to 10 inches of rainfall, into parts of far eastern and western Alabama away from the coast. Also have remained Florida, although that will expire as Sally makes its pass tomorrow night. Rainfall on top of the storm surge will cause excessive damage. Storm surge is expected and has been expected to cause major impacts. Anything in the orange and red is life-threatening. Please listen to the evacuations. You will need it. While this area is fairly sees hurricanes and they are prepared, still heed those warnings. Sally will be an impactful storm. Like all storms, storm surge will be dependent on how strong Sally actually gets. This is anticipating Sally will be a 90-mile-an-hour hurricane and landfall Tuesday morning. If it's stronger, storm surge will obviously be increased, while if it's weaker, the storm surge forecast will be decreased. But this is a good general idea from the National Hurricane Center on storm surge. And wherever Sally makes landfall, because we don't really know until a few hours before, most likely, the general path, the storm surge will be east and north of where Sally makes landfall. If Sally makes landfall along the mouth of the Mississippi, storm surge will occur where that red area is, and even orange, pushing into Mobile Bay in Alabama. Even the Big Bend area, and the Panhandle of Florida can expect up to 3 feet of surge. I'm expecting it will be towards the higher end because Sally's winds will be onshore. The opposite will occur for Vermilion Bay and Louisiana, where I'd expect relatively minimal storm surge up to maybe 1 to 2 feet due to those offshore winds. These will not be as strong as Hurricane Laura. However, the storm surge will be life-threatening, and it is paramount you take those precautions and get ready. Today is the last day to be ready. Impacts will begin tomorrow afternoon. Regarding wind, same thing as this morning's update. Areas under a hurricane warning have been added to the Category 2 risk, while the areas under a hurricane watch have been added under a Category 1 risk. And looking at overall, you can see a good picture of where exactly this falls. So look at these zones. Even if you're in a Category 1 risk, you still are in a significant area. And the next and most likely final update will be tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. unless something changes. And if it does, I will add on more updates as it is. I will post this in a bit. And as always, stay safe, folks, along the Central Gulf Coast.